Hi friends, I have a special visitor for us today. I brought my cat Abby to say hello to you. She doesn't feel like reading a book today though, she just wants to play. Maybe after I read our book I can get her up here so that she can say hello to you, because after we read our story today we're going to talk a little bit about why cats purr. We're going to do a little science experiment about that. So our book that we're going to read today is called A Boy and a Jaguar. You remember the book we read yesterday, Finding Winnie? Before we read this book, I told you this book is actually non-fiction. It's a true story about something that happened. This book is also non-fiction, and it's a true story too. This book is by Alan Rabinowitz. Now, this is a special kind of non-fiction because this is actually an autobiography. An autobiography is when you tell a story about something that happened to you in your life. So Alan Rabinowitz is telling a real story about when he was a kid and then when he grew up to become a scientist who studied jaguars. So when Alan was a kid, he had something that we call a stutter. A stutter is when you have trouble talking. Sometimes it's hard to get the words out of your mouth. And it doesn't mean that you're not smart. It just means that it's a little bit harder for you to talk, especially if you're feeling nervous or anxious. So as you can imagine, when Alan was a kid, sometimes other kids used to make fun of him. And at his school, they even put him in a special class because they thought he wasn't very smart, even though that's not true. That's not what was going on. So while we read this story, I want you to think about, what did that feel like? We're going to make some inferences. An inference is when you think about what's happening in the book and you make a guess about how that person was feeling. Now remember, this was a real person named Alan Rabinowitz. And you can see, just like the book that we read yesterday, this book also won an award. And you'll see why it's really a beautiful book. A Boy and a Jaguar. I'm standing in the great cat house at the Bronx Zoo. Why is this jaguar kept in a bare room, I wonder? I lean toward my favorite animal and whisper to her. What are you doing? My father asks. I try to explain, but my mouth freezes. Just as I knew it would. I am a stutterer. If I try to push words out, my head and my body shake uncontrollably. The teachers at school put me in a class for disturbed children. That's not a very nice way to say it. That means kids who are having a hard time. He's not disturbed, my parents say. We're sorry, the teachers answer, but whenever he tries to speak, he disrupts the class. It just means he's having trouble talking. The teachers think that I am broken. Am I? How do you think he's feeling when the teachers say that about him? Tell somebody who's watching the video with you, or you can tell me, how do you think Alan is feeling? But I can do two things without stuttering. One is sing, only I can't sing well. The other is talk to animals. Every day, I come home from class and go straight to the closet in my room. I bring out my pets, a hamster, a gerbil, a green turtle, a chameleon, and a garter snake. I close the door and talk to them without stuttering. I tell them my dreams. I tell them that I want to be able to speak like everyone else. I know that my pets listen and understand. Animals can't get the words out, just as I can't get the words out. So people ignore or misunderstand or hurt them, the same way people ignore or misunderstand or hurt me. I make a promise to my pets. I promise that if I can ever find my voice, I will be their voice and keep them from harm. What do you think he's promising? Sounds like he wants to do some work to protect animals. My parents try everything to help me. Doctor after doctor, medicine and hypnosis. Nothing works. But my father knows the one thing that does work. He takes me to the great cat house at the Bronx Zoo. I go straight to the cage with the lone jaguar, lean over the railing and put my face against the bars. I whisper my promise to her, fluently. Fluently means without stuttering. I get through school by learning tricks that stutterers learn. I learn when not to speak, when to avoid situations, and when to just not be around people. When I'm in college, my parents enroll me in an experimental program. There, I'm told that I am a stutterer, and I will always be a stutterer, always. But the teacher tells me that if I work hard, I can be a completely fluent stutterer. I think about how my mouth moves and air flows, and for the first time in years, I can speak without stuttering. He's been working really hard. How do you think he's feeling now? I can speak, but nothing has changed on the inside. I still feel broken. Why do you think he feels like he's broken? I go to the Great Smoky Mountains to study black bears. Hey, we know a black bear, right? Just like our friend. Alone in the forest with the animals, I am at home. Later, in Belize, I am the first person to study jaguars. I'm going to turn my light so you can see that picture a little bit better. Maybe that's better. There we go. The jungle makes me feel more alive than I have ever felt. So at this point, Alan is grown up, right? And his job is that he's a zoologist. He studies animals. Doesn't that sound like a great job? I learn how to follow and capture jaguars for study before releasing them back into the wild. I am happy. But as fast as I catch jaguars and gather information to help them, hunters are killing them. They fear the animals and prize their bodies as trophies. So even while he's studying them, other people are trying to kill them. I need to get more areas protected for the jaguars. I want to keep the promise I made to the pets in my closet. I have a voice now to speak for the animals. In the capital city of Belize, in the office of the Prime Minister, I am given 15 minutes to make my case. 15 minutes. How do you think he's feeling? He has to get up in front of all these important people and talk about something he's really worried about. I can't stutter and distract from my message. I have to convince one of the poorest countries in Central America, with no protected areas in the entire country, that it has to save the jaguars. Do you think he's going to be able to talk to them, or is he going to get too nervous? Later that day, the Prime Minister votes to set up the world's first and only jaguar preserve. Back in the jungle, I know all the jaguars in the study area from their tracks. But one day, I come across a completely new track, the biggest male jaguar tracks I have ever seen. I follow the prints for hours. Not wanting to be caught in the jungle at night without a flashlight, I turn around to go back to camp. There, right behind me, is the jaguar. Uh-oh. I know I should feel frightened, but I squat down and look into the jaguar's eyes, just as I had with the sad old female at the Bronx Zoo. But this animal isn't sad. In this animal's eyes are strength and power and sureness of purpose. We are both whole. I leaned toward him a little, the way I had at the Bronx Zoo. So many years before. He's going to whisper something to the jaguar. What do you think he's going to whisper? Thank you, I whisper. That's the end of the story. I think that's a really beautiful, true story about how a boy grew up to study something that he loved. Before I finish the book, I want to show you something at the very back of the book. It says Q&A with Alan Rabinowitz. Q&A means questions and answers. And these are some questions that kids wanted to ask him when they read his book. So one kid asks, is the jaguar still your favorite animal? And he says, I love all wildlife, but yes, jaguars are still the animals I feel closest to. And they are the animals I made a promise to as a child. How different are big cats from the cat that sleeps at the foot of my bed? Just like my cat, who I just showed you. Everything from the biggest cat to the smallest domestic house cat are part of the tribe of the tiger. Obviously, the tiger and the house cat are very different animals, but they share many common characteristics regarding behavior, reproduction, and activity that set them apart from other groups of animals. So now here's the question I'm wondering about. Do big cats purr? Why and when? So purring is a sound that a cat makes maybe when it's happy. The great cats, lions, tigers, jaguars, and leopards all roar. Other cats cannot roar. The roar is enabled by the anatomical features called an incomplete ossified hyoid. However, there are no unique anatomical features for purring, and while the sound of the purr may vary from species to species, all cats can purr. Now I wanted to read you that part because the mystery science experiment that we're going to watch today is actually about that same question, do cats purr? So some people study big cats in the wilderness, right? But some people also study the cats that live at our houses. Since I've been staying home for such a long time now, I've been watching my cats all the time and wondering about why they do the things that they do. Before we go, I'm going to go grab Abby one more time and see if she's ready to say hello. Here she is. She was sitting by the window looking outside, wondering if she was going to find a bird. Now, she's pretty happy right now. Let's see if she would like to purr. You want to purr, sweetie? No, I want to go and play. So when you watch your Mystery Science episode today, you get to see the question, why do cats purr? And we all get to be scientists from our own homes. Let's see what you learned today. Say goodbye, Abby. See you tomorrow.